I'm Kiara.
Hi, I'm Jingmin.
Hi, I'm Pearly.
I'm Sean.
Hi, I'm V, and you're listening to Music Existence.
Music at
Yay!
distance.
Music at distance.
Welcome to another instance of music existence, where because of music, we exist. My guest is the band Taledrops, coming to you from Singapore. They've been making noise these past few years, playing the local festival circuit, including Baybeats, Sundown, and LaSalle Rock and Indie Festival. Last year, they came out with the EP called Visions of a Dying Dream, and as of this very recording that's happening now, they actually put out a new single. It's called Bad Day, Darling, which continues to center around things that happen in life and how you process it all. So, we're gonna get this started and dive deeper into it. Welcome, girls. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Jake. And thanks for the wonderful introduction.
Oh man, this is awesome. It's so great to like talk to a whole group. So I kind of like to start things off and you can kind of answer as you will. But, when you girls were growing up, what was your musical environment like and how did that shape your influences?
I think it's quite different for okay, maybe a bit similar for a few of us, but I would say like across the group it is quite diverse. Would you like us to give you like a summary, or do you want us to go like one by one and then we talk
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit about how
yeah,
okay, then someone else in the group can start.
yeah.
What about Jingmin? Jingmin, you
What?
can go first.
What was the arrow? All right, okay. Honestly, we are not that young anymore, so I would say growing up has different phases, in terms of the music environment. When I was really young, like single digit year old, I think the most influence I had would be from the classical scene because I don't know whether you're familiar with like the Asian slash Singaporean culture where the parents would force their children to learn music, a music instrument at least. Yeah, that was my family culture basically. Yeah, so I had to pick up an instrument. I was made to practice the instrument daily and things like that. But I guess over time I got to, maybe I didn't when I was very young, but when I was in primary school and secondary school, I got to appreciate music more. And I hated theory, but now looking back, I'm glad that my parents forced me to learn theory because who knew that music would become such a critical part of my life now. I definitely wouldn't have known if I was like 20 years ago. Yeah, so it started from the classical music, piano, double bass, and then maybe like around teens age, I would say I was mostly listening to Mando pop because the Mando pop scene is actually pretty huge in Singapore as well. The radio, whatever that was playing on the radio. So not really into the indie local music, I would say back then. Only until we started playing as a band, then I gained more exposure to band music and how it can be a lot more dynamic. At least this may be, I don't know, bias or something, but it felt a lot more dynamic and interesting sonically to me. When it was a band music, like something that was written and performed by a band rather than like a solo artist. At least that was when I started getting into like the underground music, the different genres, something much more hardcore than just Mando pop, for example. Yeah, and yeah, so I guess that would be a brief overview of how my music taste or preference or culture environment evolved as I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's really awesome. So yeah, theory does come in handy, especially you get all of that foundation, and then when you eventually do go punk rock, um, it kind of helps because when you're able to simplify it, you're still able to like look at it in like more expressive sorts of ways, because you
Yeah.
have
For,
a much greater understanding, you know.
For sure, for sure. And I guess it also unknowingly or knowingly shaped my preferences in music. So for example, now that when I look into like band music, right, I also prefer something that is more interesting in terms of like chordal progression, more different techniques in building the tension and sustaining the tension before it releases the tension. I really, it gives me a bit of the high. And that's what I really look out for in terms of music now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about for
So
the rest?
yeah, for everyone else, like, did you like kind of have like a similar, you know, Singaporean foisting of like the traditional kind of theory angle, or did you kind of grow up like, nah, fuck it, let's just go all punk rock all the time?
Okay, I'll go next and I'll keep it brief because my experience is quite similar to Jingmin's.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I also grew up like learning and playing classical music, um, which I loved though. Like it really wasn't like forced by my parents or anything. Like it was
nice.
something that I took very seriously growing up. And I think for the longest time in my childhood and all the way till like I was like maybe like a young adult, I think I seriously considered like I guess becoming like a classical musician, like going for that as my career. So I think that was kind of like my experience. But I think even though that was like I guess like the serious side of music to me,
Yeah.
but I've always also liked listening to like rock music, even like as a child. Ooh, sorry.
Oh,
uh,
it's okay.
yeah. So and I think in the past like I've always listened to like rock or like heavier music as a form
Yeah.
of I think it's a form of like release and enjoyment. I never really saw myself like being in a band and I guess being in a band and like playing in a band so like consistently and like having so much fun right now. So I think that was something that came very unexpected. But at the same time I would say like my musical experiences also largely shaped I guess like the also largely shaped like my involvement in the band today,
Hmm.
in terms of like I think the musical characteristics and to me like even though I grew up like learning how to play instruments, but actually I think like something that I truly enjoy more than playing is writing music.
Yeah, wow.
And I think that's something that I didn't really get to explore while being in a classical music scene because a lot of it was just like perfect performance, right? Like classical music is all about like
In some
being
yeah, in
perfect.
some way it's yeah, being perfect in some way it's kind of like the Singaporean scene of yesteryear where it was all, originals were like so frowned upon and like, if you have original music, we won't promote it, get
Yeah,
lost
yeah,
there. So,
exactly. Like this band like really gave me that avenue to explore that interest that I never got to fully enjoy. So I think to me that was the most rewarding experience being in a band.
mhm.
Okay, I'll pass it on.
Okay, for me, I don't have any theory experiences. I I used to question myself like whether I'm a true musician because I don't know any theory, and you tell me about chords and I wouldn't understand. Uh, but yeah, I'm the drummer of the band, so I think maybe I grew up listening to a lot of oldies because of my parents. Like my dad, he really loves a lot of rock music. He brought me to watch Air Supply and Bon Jovi. And I just started getting into music because I played Rock Band on the PlayStation, Guitar Hero. And I'm like, wow, damn, it's so
Yeah.
cool to be in a band. And yeah, that's how I started learning. But I would say that I think over the years I've taken like my instrument more seriously now also. Just trying to understand it because there's really so much there to explore and learn from it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So you got, yeah, so we go from classical to classic music, Air Supply, Bon Jovi. Wow, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
And I'm usually the kind that goes like rock and roll and like fuck everything.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go next. Actually for me, I also don't really have like theory. I didn't take any like classical or anything. However, I think my very first like inspirations was like listening to pop. Because I think my brother was very into pop
Yeah.
music. My older brother, yeah. So back then it was actually like people like Clay Aiken. Like Clay Aiken I think
Yeah.
was like the very first
Oh man.
was the very
Yeah.
first artist that I had ever like listened to, I think. Yeah, because he
Yeah.
like illegally downloaded it. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah,
Like
LimeWire and
yeah.
all the
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I think growing up I was very into pop. I still am very into pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was only until I met the band actually that I think I started to have like a wider um like I guess a wider knowledge and also a wider awareness for rock music and or just alternative music in general. Yeah. I think my biggest sort of like inspiration or like musical environment that really kept me or like that really inspired me to and my love for singing is actually being in choir all this while. I think growing up since young I've always enjoyed being in choir, and I remember very vividly and very fondly like my days back in like I think secondary school, so like middle
Yeah.
school, like
Yeah.
13 to 16 years old.
Yeah.
Like my choir was somewhat like a show choir, so we will put on like we won't just be singing like classical music, we'll be singing like versions of pop songs or even like rock songs also at that point in time, and I just found it so like interesting and so fulfilling. I honestly, I mean, I also told this to the band, I honestly did not think that I would pursue music past like uni or like like past schooling days, because like
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like there will be a very um there will be a very like, okay, once you're school you need to be like you need to focus and be an
Yeah,
adult.
because you're
Yeah.
not allowed to aspire to do things, right?
Exactly.
You're
Yeah.
expected to do things.
Yeah, exactly. So like I think being with the band honestly has kept like so much things like alive in me, like um it has honestly also like made me feel so much more sure of like my own self. I think the band, like being able to write our own original music also allows me to be more in touch and be more in connection with like what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, what I'm experiencing in life, so I think that's also another avenue that I never expected the band to have for me, and I'm just really glad to be in this environment, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really
Okay.
cool.
Yeah. And then now passing on to Shan. Thanks for
Oh
the
yes,
hearts.
I'm the luck. Yeah. So my music experience is actually a bit more similar to Z and Jimin. So I started with the typical parents forcing the kid into a music school and learning like classical music. I would say that I hated the practicing, but it was always very nice listening to music. So that
Yeah.
that was kind of what like still kept me going in the music,
Yeah.
like dabbling in music. Then I think in school, cause we were in like CCAs, but like I was in like Chinese orchestra, so I also got
Right.
experience with like Chinese music. And then like growing up listening to, I think I grew up listening more pop, eventually also like K-pop music as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from there I guess it's really just like even if the music is different, the language is different, everything just the music is like a universal language. So like from there you learn a lot and you still appreciate a lot of that music that you hear out there. And I guess that kind of also, so when it came to like our band music, it's still something we all enjoy, right? So yeah, that's how I guess we all kind of came together as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it's cool that in forming Taledrops, you guys kind of recognized not only the musical pursuit aspect of it, but the bond. You guys are very tight, you're very expressive with how you do things, and you sort of learn about each other and you start to like appreciate, you start to open your mind to like new influence as well. A lot of like stuff that you wouldn't have thought possible, especially in a place like Singapore because, throughout, the 60s, that was the golden age, and then through 69 onwards, everything died. And then it was always fluctuating. There were high points, there were low points, there were high points, there were low points. And like I was listening, I just got Dick Lee's vinyl Life in the Lion City, and there is some pride aspect to Singapore, but there's also like an underlying cynicism too, like a sarcasm, and you kind of look past the glitz and the glamour, and you see just people. They're almost like zombies, they're kind of. There was this promo thing I saw, like Singapore. It was like everybody smile, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is good. Oh, this is good." And then there was this one guy who was like, "I think it's a load of crap." So it's just really, it really is the summation of what Singapore really is. There's a lot to appreciate. There's a lot to explore about it, but at the same time, it has its limitations too.
Agree.
For sure, I think we might be one of the, at least in terms of legal, like if you look at the legal context, we have so many laws. Not sure, yeah, like no chewing gum,
Yeah, yeah.
things like
Remember,
that.
there was a
Yeah,
Walau Gang song. It was like, "Oh my Singapore, you're a fine, fine country." You know what fine is, right? Fine's country of fine.
yeah,
And then
yeah. So I guess that's
Copycat
what
Clan
we.
had a song called "Why You So Like That." It's like all about like, yeah, just being like stuck in the school environment and not being kind of uncertain on how to like branch out of that, you know?
Hmm.
So in a way, this is like liberating, forming tail drops, and I kind of like the name in the sense that it's like teardrops, but it's the story of like how those tears kind of manifest in different sort
Oh,
of scenarios.
I think you got it. The meaning of
Wow.
our movie. Spot
Yeah,
on.
basically we cry a lot. We really
Yeah,
do.
everybody does. It's okay to cry.
It is, it is.
Yeah. And like so it's really cool. Like I mean, like shoegaze has the saying of like they're the scene that celebrates itself, but with Singapore, it's kind of weird because because the scene has fluctuated, there's such an uneven collector market. It's like the scene that celebrates itself, maybe they like when convenient. And what do you do then?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Agree. But I feel like we could do so much more though. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I think through this whole process, I mean, not just, or I guess this is the most like in-depth we've ever been to sort of like curate whatever you were mentioning. But I think like, through that whole process, we realized that there's actually so much more that we can do. I mean, like from supporting like our local music scene, to trying to see how we can not have so much of a digital footprint but more of a physical footprint. I think we haven't fully figured that out yet, but I think we are on our way somewhat. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like when did you first become aware of like the scene you're a part of in Singapore? Was it like once you started a band, or were you familiar with the scenes of the past, like, everything, all the acts that were on like Big O and like all the like substation and everything like that?
Hmm.
Do you want to take this question?
Yeah, sure, sure. I can go. So Okay, I'll add a little like personal note and then I'll go into something that is more like a shared experience.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I guess for me, like growing up, I've always also had a soft spot for like local music and bands.
yeah,
I fondly remember myself being obsessed with like this local indie band. They're called Another Sunday Afternoon. They're not
yeah,
active anymore. But they had this album that first came out in 2009.
yeah,
That was when I was still pretty young, and
yeah.
I remember putting that album like on repeat on my way to school, on my way back home, and um and I think like being that young and being a fan of like a local band, it made me realize like the possibility of being a local band, right? I think like hearing like knowing of them, listening to their music and liking their music makes me realize that, oh, there is this possibility that, like we could also I could, and with other people like could also be that band that people enjoy listening to, even though even though I think like it's not that common of it's not yeah I think to a lot of like to majority of Singaporeans, I think they don't really know that local bands exist. So I think knowing that they exist and being a fan like made me realize that this was a possibility. And I think like fast forward to a few more years into like maybe like my teenagers. So that was when we met, like most of this band we met when we were like 13, because we were all high school friends.
Oh,
So
right. Yeah.
yeah. So that was when we met, and then I think that kind of like started the I wouldn't say it started the band, but I think it started our like musical bond together as like a group. And then I think Baybeats was also something that was very impactful for all of us. It just brings together like the best and the most exciting acts in Singapore and in our region. And it's also free, so it's very accessible even for like a student who has no money for shows and stuff.
Whoa,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, exactly. So like the fact that it's free, it's so accessible, the acts are amazing. I think watching like being an audience at Baybeats was just so inspiring, and that I think it's like the best channel, I would say, for Singaporeans to get a good sense of like our local scene as well as like the regional acts. So I think going to Baybeats together with them, with like the band, like as a group, I think that was before Taledrops, I think.
Yeah, it
Oh,
Right?
was.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
were.
So like we were just like hanging, like we love music, right? So we would just hang out, go to watch Baybeats and stuff. So that was like a very significant moment for us. Like watching all these acts, like looking up to those acts that we really liked. And then I think the next thing that kind of brought us like I guess one step closer to the scene was when this was like in the middle of COVID.
Oh, wow.
Basically everything was
But
shut
just
down.
starting.
Yeah, we there were no shows, like people couldn't go out, a lot of like restrictions and things. And that was also when we spent like more time together as a band, because we had no other options, I guess. No one could travel, nothing. And then that was also when we had the idea of organizing a gig within like all the restrictions that we had to deal with
Yeah.
government at that time, right? So it was a tricky situation, but I think it was also like it was also the right time for us to do this, because I think we found ourselves at a time where we had like so much energy, but there was no outlet. And so like organizing this gig just felt like what we really wanted to do at that time. So we organized a gig for the very first time, like during all the COVID rules and everything. So it was, now thinking back, it was kind of crazy, but we did it anyway. And I think that was our first like close, like the closest we got, like our first close exposure to like the local musicians and the local artists. Because of course organizing a gig meant like inviting bands, like looking up bands that we liked,
Right.
inviting them, talking to them, having them come down to the show. And honestly, everyone was so like welcoming, supportive, friendly. Like they
Wow.
knew we were a young and like unknown band at that time. We were just trying to like figure ourselves out. So like bands who
So
are like
that
more,
wasn't even a thing.
oh, we
Yeah.
were
We
not
didn't
even a
have our
band.
net. Yeah,
Oh
we
yeah,
didn't
we
have
were
our
not even a
net.
band. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they would just yeah, but they knew that we had like these ideas or like these aspirations, and a lot of them just extended like their helping hand or gave us advice. I think that like I think it was both things. Like one, it was watching them perform and being super inspired by the performance, like the quality of the performance, um, like how beautiful it was, like witnessing live local music right in front of you, together with the fact that the community was so welcoming to us, even though we were basically like yeah, even though we were nobody, we were nothing. Yeah, like I think they were just very welcoming to anyone who had interest in the scene. So I think that brought us closer to it. And then I think people were encouraging us to sign up for like the Baybeats budding band program. So basically it's a program by Baybeats that they take in like about 4 to 5 young budding bands per year, and then they pair you up with like like an industry mentor, and then you go on to play a set at Baybeats. So it was kind of like these few I think events in succession that brought us closer to the scene. And then I think from playing Baybeats, we had a really great mentor that also taught us so much about the scene. And that I think that was kind of like this propelling movement. And then I would say the rest is just like naturally it went like that. Yeah.
Taledrops history, essentially. And
Yeah. And also history before Taledrops, I guess.
yeah, pre-teardrops too.
Yeah, pre-Taledrops history indeed.
And it's interesting because you think of the general apathy and indifference and, like I mentioned, cynicism of Singapore, where a lot of people, especially in this generation, in
Mm-hmm.
our generation and younger, um, they don't really believe that a scene exists. And I think they take it for granted. But like you were saying in Bay Beats, because they have that tight-knit community, that set of standards for Baybeats of what they represent and how they stuck strictly to that etiquette of like you see a band, you know, help them out. Don't just virtue signal and try to be like this weird good Samaritan. Like genuinely, if you see someone interested, have a conversation with them, see where they're coming from, and see how you can contribute and help them grow. And I think that's really wonderful. And I think that's what a lot of scenes could learn from, especially when, you know, going through that initial stage of finding a mentor, because people, especially in a place like America or anywhere else, can get really lost. They don't know where to look to, or they might find someone else might have ulterior motives. But the guys at Baybeats were crucial in, just seeing like where your drive was, where your goals were, and just, you know, lending a hand and in general being a good support along the way.
Yeah, for sure. I would say Baybeats was like the defining event for Teardrops. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, like being paired with our mentor. Um, Shout out to Rashid.
Oh,
So our
nice.
mentor was Rashid Juraimi from Wormrod. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it was. I think it was really a defining moment for the band. Like I don't know. I think we all feel the same. It's a bit hard to put into words, but
Yeah.
it felt like I'm sure if that didn't happen, like I don't know if the band would have like continued all these years. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or just like
Definitely.
got to like the points of secession that you expressed. Maybe you would have existed in some form, but like wouldn't have gotten on to these bigger platforms and indeed like toured around like other parts of Asia. And like, let's go to 2023. You put out the single Kafka, and like I always found it interesting, like because one of Kafka's sorts of knowledge points is one of the first signs of beginning of understanding is the wish to die, and not to die in the sense of, killing yourself, but dying in the sense of letting go of the restrictions. And that's kind of what your band is about. That's what your whole angle is about. when you write your material. So were you all kind of fans of Kafka, and then you kind of found common ground stylistically of what this song would kind of launch you guys under?
Yeah, I think Kiara can share more about that.
Yeah.
Like I guess this song, like during which time of our lives.
Yeah, I think it was the point where we all kind of finished high school, graduated from junior college, and we are
Hmm.
wondering whether we should pursue our dreams or our passion. And I think in Singapore, it's really hard to make music like a full-time career, even though I want, I don't know if the band wants, but I think we all want, ideally we want, but it's really hard because yeah, the scene is really small here, and but we also only live once, and I don't know, do we use like spend our time in our life doing what we really want or going for something that is safe? I think that was the crossroad that we were facing, and
Hmm.
that's how Kafka was born.
Yeah.
Yeah, because yeah.
So like that fits in with surrender. It's kind of in the same process. And I was wondering, like, with surrender, in this instance, it's like if you let go, like you're gonna just like do away with life entirely, and you'll have no like path to follow. But if you're still fighting, like at least
Mm-hmm.
you're doing something. At least
Yeah,
struggling is like part of like the process. Like there's still movement in the struggle.
yeah, I think you got that really well. So I think it's about really wishing to achieve your dreams, but when you realize that you can't, there is also some sort of peace when you let go of it, but it's not really something that you are satisfied with, because in the end you know that that is what you actually really want, but you know that you can't. Yeah, so you surrender very unwillingly.
Oh man.
Yeah, so there's a line that says like, if I call it quits, there will be no desire to plead.
Right,
I think
right.
that's the summary of the song.
Yeah, because pleading is still something that you're doing, even if you're desperate.
Mm.
Yeah. I think desperate. Yeah, desperate and struggle sounds like the song.
So it's really cool how you tie it all together. And then Bad Day Darling is sort of like it's an extension of that. And um Pearlie actually directed the music video. And I like how
Yeah.
you didn't go for the cheap angle of using a particular social media like platform. You just went with like phones and capturing your eyes in different positions, like conveying different emotions. So like how did that come together?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think what you mentioned was also quite true. I think we had this discussion. We originally wanted to put a particular social media platform in our lyrics actually, but we had like a bit of a discussion and we decided that, it's actually not social media that is the problem, it's just kind of us. Yeah, so the inspiration for the MV was that um it started out with the thinking about what ended up as our teasers, because I wanted to, like, if you already know, like the song is about our insecurities and also like how horrifying it actually is, that it has so much power over us. It has so much power over how we think and how we act, and how we even like view ourselves, even when everyone else may not have the same thought as us. So I wanted to treat this insecurity, or like our insecurities, as like a literal like haunting. So I'm not sure if you've seen our teasers, but like we had three teasers and they were all acting as like kind of like one shots, like a very short scenarios in which like a woman, of which three of us will start in it, like of a woman is being like haunted literally by like a unknown entity, like it's like the hands. But
Right.
actually
It's
you
like,
realize,
yeah, it's like the
yeah,
hand, but then you turn around and nothing's actually there.
exactly. Yeah. But later on, like in the final, kind of like in the final scene of the MV, when you realize like So Jingmin was the actor for that, and she was like looking into the mirror, and she realizes that actually like the person that is haunting her, or the entity that is haunting, is actually herself, you know?
Right.
So
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I've always been like a fan of like thriller movies, like psychological thriller.
Yeah.
And I mean, recently, very, very recently, maybe a few years back, like the band was also like introduced again actually by Rashid to this
Yeah.
movie called The Substance. And I think after
Yeah.
watching it, I mean, even though it was body horror and I'm like a huge ass scaredy cat, honestly, but like I think after watching it, it really inspired me, because that was literally what I kind of wanted Betty Darling to, or the MV also, to portray, which was like the horror that comes from within, like the horror is not monsters under your bed. The horror is not like, I don't know, like the nun from Conjuring, but it's actually like the thing, like it's actually yourself that's the thing that keeps you up at night, and the things that scare you the most. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because it's in your head where everything's raw and like
yeah.
floating like right at the surface, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, to me, I mean, actually, when I also wrote the song, there was also a different initial idea. How I actually started thinking about writing Bad Day Darling was that I had a conversation with a friend,
Right.
and like she spent thousands of dollars to remove a mole on her face, because
Oh
she
man.
thought she felt that it destroyed how she looked. Like,
Oh.
to me, I felt it was ridiculous, but then on second thought, I thought like, actually, aren't I the same? Like, I realized that sometimes like I also have these like spiraling moments. I mean, I might not have the money for that, but like I do have spiraling moments of like, I want to
You know,
change
like
by
where you're
myself.
extremely self-conscious
Yeah,
about
exactly.
one
Yeah,
particular minute aspect of yourself
exactly.
that you
Yeah.
blow out of proportion.
Proportion. Exactly. Yeah. So I felt like, like a tiny flaw in my eyes could, I mean, like a tiny flaw in other people's eyes could actually be a mountain in my own head. So I felt like, and that's where, I mean, going back to like how much power like our thoughts, and especially sometimes even like bad thoughts, can have on us. And if we are not careful, like how much it can actually consume us, I think that's where the horror is, like and I mean, stemming from like my formative years when I was like growing up, I feel like as women also, I feel like I've always been like, asked to act in a certain way. Like, I have to be good, I have to be kind, I can't misbehave, like, or I can't wear certain things, because I'm a girl or something, like.
Yeah.
And I guess it also made me feel like I had to curate this outward image of myself, like how I should be seen by other people. If not, I'm not normal in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think from young, then it's just like I just have to like start curating myself, and I feel like Bad Day Darling is also quite um it's quite it's quite opportune, if it's a
Yeah.
correct word to use. But like, now that we as a band are very forward facing, like, how we portray ourselves also has a very huge implication. So, there's always this constant pressure to uphold this certain look, especially because we as Taledrops are not
Yeah.
presenting ourselves as ourselves, we are
Right.
not. Yeah, we're not actually us. We are band members of Taledrops, and then
Yeah,
there is
just like personas of yourself,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. And I felt like, after a while, I mean, occasionally there's actually this sense of fatigue that we can't escape, even as our normal selves. Like, we always constantly have to uphold ourselves, you know, um, how we feel other people should be perceiving us.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I relate to that too, you know. I don't know if Chris told you or Kevin told you, but I'm disabled myself. I have cerebral palsy, and being in that vulnerable position like you girls are, it's like accessibility is a huge thing, and we're always taught to be polite, polite, okay with the bare minimum. And
Mm-hmm.
then in the same way, it's like, no, fuck that. We know that we deserve more.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, which is
That
why
one you
like, I feel like even yeah, I guess like I'm sure this is kind of like a universal like thought in which like we sometimes have thoughts of not feeling good enough, or like
Right,
thoughts of wanting to be perfect. I think
right.
um sometimes it can get quite toxic. Yeah. And like but we can't help it, I guess. So I mean as much as the envy is quite it takes a turn to be like, a literal spiral to self-rejection.
Right.
And but at the end of the day, I think like at the end of the song, it's kind of like a feeling of acceptance, like because at the end, like at the very in the at the end of the chorus one, it says that like I'm a hideous monster, that's me. But by the end of chorus two,
Yeah.
even though like we feel like the
I'll be the
we
prettiest monster you've ever seen.
exactly
Yeah.
exactly. So it's like for maybe on other people, it's like oh this person has
That's
turned
like
crazy,
that
but
little that's like that little bite, that one line that changes
yeah,
the whole concept of it. I thought
exactly.
that was really clever. That's really
Thank you.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, even if at the end of the day you might be seen to others as like a monster, but if you accept that you're a monster, then the self-acceptance is all that truly matters, TBH. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, TBH. Oh man. But yeah, considering the career that you've had thus far and everything, what have you learned about yourselves, not only as musicians, but as people?
what a good question.
Yeah.
Kara, why not you start?
Give me some time to think.
What have you learned in this journey called life? What is your life story?
We're still I mean, okay, we're not young, but we are
Yeah.
not
Young
very old
enough
either.
to
Yeah,
like
young
still
enough.
enjoy life, but at this point of life, you're like, you've had the experience to know what you want and to know what's bullshit and what isn't.
Hmm.
To be honest, to me, like even though the band is about music, and I think the whole experience of being in a band, from the outside at least, um, seems to be very, very centered around music. But I would say my personal experience or like my personal reflection or like what I've learned, like to me, the most important thing is actually not music itself.
Right,
Like I think this is a very like being in a band is a very unique experience of working so closely with like this group of people. And I
right,
think it it just made me realize and learn a lot about like myself, about how I interact with the world, how I perceive myself. And I think like it's a very unique experience that I'm sure I wouldn't get to experience if not for the band. Because like where else would I be like stuck in this, not stuck, but like where else would I be in this experience where I see these people more than I see my own family. um we we spend so much time together and we work on something that all of us hold very dear to. And there's so much to learn and unlearn about like ego, like how much you attach yourself to something, and how much like in the whole process of doing this, how do you also care for like the people around you, like the people that are doing this together with you, and of course at the same time care for yourself. Because I think like it's the whole mix of like wanting to achieve something together, but knowing that we can only achieve that as a group. And it's all about balancing like your own judgment, your own ego, how you, I guess, how you interact with the group. And I think this is really a very unique and to me very special experience. Like I just don't see how I could have learn and experience so much in any part of my life if not for the band. Yeah. So like interestingly enough, it's not about the special experience to me. It's not about like performing overseas. It's not about achieving
right.
this and that. It's really about like learning so much about being human and I guess learning so much about this group of people that I choose to spend my
I
time with.
guess in the same way, it's like recognizing that you can't do this alone. Like if Chris hadn't made that call to you guys, I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have talked to you. I wouldn't have gotten to know you. Like I still think that I'm just a small fish in the pond. But if my work reaches people and resonates with them in the same way that yours does with me, that's just
Oh.
that's just really awesome.
Mm.
Thank you.
Wow,
I
I
think
really
the
like
rest
that.
should share also like what this experience has made you learn.
Yeah, I mean, it's really incredible. And just the fact that, there's the five of you, you're constantly, like you said, you're not trapped, but you're spending a lot of time. And of course, you get sick of each other, you pull at each other's like guts and throw them at each other, but in the same way, you just learn to love, and in the same way you balance ideas off of each other, and you learn
Mm.
to like break it down and say, okay, let's take this step, let's take that step. We're in a world like 2026,
Mm.
it's highly individualistic, it's highly like me. I don't need this person, I don't need that person, like self-reliance. And like, they preach like self-sufficiency, but underneath all of that, it's selfishness. But meeting you guys, you've proved that, you know, with being a group of, different interests, different inspirations, but a common goal could really drive you in the right direction.
Mm. Aw.
I think you really nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
wow.
having
Yeah.
goosebumps. Yeah. I think it's really a truly unique experience, like what Z mentioned and yourself. I think there's a quote that says like if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together.
Aw, that's
So
that's cute.
yeah, I think it's really, really not easy navigating all these because there's a lot of things that we personally, individually like attach to, like for example, our ideas, our opinions about what is best. But yeah, ultimately there's only like one decision that can be made, which like ideally comprises of like all of our opinions, but a lot of times it doesn't. But I think it's also learning that, all of us have very different realities. And
Right.
okay that sometimes your opinions are not the one being picked, but also to trust that, the band has like insights or things that you don't see that, like doesn't mean that something is being chosen means that yours is not as good, but ultimately trust that everyone has the best interest at heart for the band, that we just all want the best for the band. And I think music wise, it has personally given me a lot of space to express myself. And it is truly very scary or vulnerable, even though like I'm so close to the band, like there are people that are closest to me. But I still do feel a lot of like fear or like,
Yeah,
yeah, just fear.
vulnerability is
Yeah.
a make or break scenario. The right
Yeah.
people will stick around. The wrong people will just like dismiss you or give you a lecture and leave you alone. And you don't need that.
Yeah.
You need that
Yeah.
consistency.
Yeah, so like sharing with them and like um just trusting that they will still stand for you even though they might disagree with some things, but
Yeah.
they still stand for you. I think letting go
Hmm.
of control, like the controlling the outcome, is something that I'm still learning to deal with because yeah, you don't know how people will react to what you put out. But I think also what's important is that you say what you want to say. I
Hmm.
think in the past I was very afraid to like put my voice out there because it might be rejected.
Right.
But I think ultimately just voicing your voice is good enough,
Hmm.
and knowing that that's just what you stand for, and you can change, you can pivot, you can mold into different kinds of things as life progresses.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think ultimately this band is, I don't know, I just feel very lucky to be able to live my dream in this lifetime.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I'm not sure
awesome.
what other lifetimes will be, but Yeah,
Yeah.
this awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and dreams aren't just like the apex of our lives. Dreams are very fragmented, have a lot of twists and turns in the same way life does, but ultimately we just learn to live. And like you said, you kind of give up control because anything could happen. So you just learn to
Mhm.
kind of float on in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So lastly, anything you'd like to say to your fans? What would you like to say to your fans?
It's quite funny because like we just had a private live stream party with some of our fans. Yeah, like yesterday. So I think it always amazes me actually, or even yeah, that um that we have people who support us and there are people who cheer us on. Because I don't know, like sometimes I feel like the music that we write and the lyrics that we talk that and the themes I guess that we talk about might not be for everyone, I
Yeah.
feel. Yeah, and but like the fact that there are also people who resonate deeply with us, who are
Yeah.
able to kind of like just get us, like I think it's been very heartwarming, and like they always never fail to surprise us, in and like in their support, in how much like love and energy that they can give back to us. Like it's not easy, I think, to give your energy to a band, I don't know, I think. But like they're knowing that they are constantly there to support us, whether is it a live show, whether is it like, buying our merch, or like just hyping us up, like sometimes like I think especially with like our recent release, like getting people in our DMs, messaging us about how much they love the song. They've even been helping us to share it with like friends and family who they think they might also like it, like I think these are all like small small acts that just yeah means so much to us.
Hmm. That's awesome. Thank you, girl, so much. I've loved talking to you, and I hope we keep in contact. I mean, you can reach me. I'm on Facebook. Just type in my name, and this has been amazing, you know?
Thank you.
No,
Thank you,
thank
Same
you.
for
James.
us
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Oh,
think this was a really timely interview as well, because it came during a time where like we're so busy, we're so like focused on like getting the release right, like ticking things off our checklist. And I think like it's such a good moment to just take some time and think about like our, I guess, history, or like what we've been through together, and also what the band means to us. I feel
oh, you feel the love.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And thank you for like so much putting in so much effort in like learning about us, like the songs and everything. Like I think all of us, I'm sure we can tell like how much preparation work you have done for this, and I think we
Mm.
really appreciate that effort in getting to know us and spending this time
Yeah.
with us.
Oh,
Yeah. 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 It's
Truly.
amazing how you can be so on the nail for so many things, and you can even verbalize it better than ourselves, whether it is about
Exactly.
our name or about the what we have in mind when we write certain things, and the small intentions that we have in the lyrics, and the lyrics change. That's amazing. I wasn't expecting this at all. So thank you for really putting in your heart, and really scrutinizing and studying our
Yeah,
materials. And
I feel
I
so
think that's
seen
really
as a band.
touching. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
oh,
like how you asked us about what we would like to say to our fans. I think similarly, experiences like this, when people just understand, or people just try to understand, I think that really touches us, and it's just the sweetest and most beautiful thing, which we probably wouldn't be aware of if not in this position currently. Yeah. So really just, I think, a lot of appreciation for the love that people show. I don't know if I will be able to do that myself, but really, that's really wonderful. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Hey, Jake, before we go, can we take like a picture with the group? I'll just do a screenshot from my
Yeah.
from my computer. All right, everyone, give your best pose. Stand by.
Wait.
Girl, okay, hold up, one more moment.
You have to look good for the camera.
Perfection.
Awesome.
All right, we got it.
Kick ass.
Yay.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Jake.
Have a great day, Jake, and enjoy the weekend.
I wish you girls like all the best.
Thank you.
Thank
Jake.
you so much.
Same to you. So nice
Yeah,
meeting you.
Bye.
See you girls.
See
See you
you.
guys.
Bye bye.
Bye, Jake.